Hello, it's Mr. McNeil here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to simplify before we multiply in fractions. So before we start, can you make sure you've got something to write on? Can you make sure you've got a pen, pencil and a different coloured pen to mark your work? Okay, so the learning objective. So I want you to write the learning objective and underline it just as though you were still in school, and it's to know how to multiply fractions using cross-cancelling. Now you might not know what cross-cancelling means right now, but we're going to learn what that is, and it will make multiplying the fractions slightly easier. Your success criteria: we can multiply two fractions together and we can cancel common factors down before we do the multiplication. There are 6 questions here, so take 10 minutes. Okay, see if you can answer the 6 questions and then pause the video. Okay, by now you should have done the 6 questions. Okay, so the answers are on the screen. Use your green pen, mark your work, and hopefully you got them okay, all right. Okay, simplifying before multiplying. So I'm going to do the I do. Okay, if you notice, it's 4/7 multiplied by 7/11, so it's this one here. Okay, now if you think about it, from what we've learned before in previous lessons, we're going to do 4 times 7 is 28 and 7 times 11 is 77, and then we're going to have to try and cancel that down. But look, there's a 7 on the top line of the second fraction and a 7 on the bottom line of the first fraction. So it's called cross cancelling because 7 divided by 7 is 1. So what we can do is this: we can cross that one out, and exchange them for a 1. 7 divided by 7 is 1. So now we've got 4 times 1 is 4, and 7 times 11, sorry, 1 times 11 is 11. So the answer is 4/11. Okay, I'm not going to use the crossing out lines on the second one, but you can see there's a 7 and a 7, so those two will cancel out. So that becomes 8/1 times 1/11 is 8/11. So it's your turn now to do these two we do's. So pause the video, try the two, and then I will show you the answers. Okay, the answers are 3/10 and 4/13. I'm sorry if my picture is a bit in the way of it, but it's 4 times 1 is 4 and 1 times 13 is 13, so it's 4/13. Okay, next one. On this slide we've got 7/8 multiplied by 11/7. So I've got a 7 on the numerator of the first fraction and a 7 on the denominator of the second fraction. Those two 7s, 7 divided by 7 is 1, so they will cancel out with each other, leaving 1s, and you should get an answer of 1 times 11 over 8 times 1, which is 11/8. This is an improper fraction, so it's good practice to change that to a mixed number. How do we change it to a mixed number? How many 8's go into 11? 8 times 1 is 8, remainder 3, 1 and 3/8. This one's quite a straightforward one. The 8 will cancel out with the 8, which leaves 1, and the 7 will cancel out with the 7, which is 1. So the answer to that question is actually going to be 1. You think about it, 8 times 7 is 56, 7 times 8 is 56. What is 56 divided by 56? But by crossing out and cancelling, you don't need to worry about that. So the answer is 1. Okay, so you're going to do these two, and let's see what you get. Okay, the answer is 1/15, and the answer, same as the example, is 1, because everything cancels out with each other. Okay, on this slide we've got 3/13 times 13/15 times a whole number, which is 15. Okay, so if you don't know, a whole number has got a hidden denominator that we can't see. We can call it a 15 over 1. So the 13 and the 13 will cancel, and the 15 and the 15 will cancel. So that will leave us with 3 over 1 times 1 over 15 times 15 over 1. And then the 15 and the 15 will cancel, so the answer is 3. Okay, this one, the 2.5, we need to turn into a top-heavy fraction. So 2 times 2 is 4, add 1 is 5. So that's 5 over 2 times 1 over 5. Now the 5 cancels with a 5, so that becomes 1 over 2. So you try the next two. Remember, a whole number can be a fraction as 5 over 1. And in this one, you're going to have to change that to an improper fraction. So pause the video now and try these two questions. Okay, the answers was 1/3 and 5 over 3, which equals 1 2/3. Remember, how many 3's go into 5? 3 ones is 3, remainder 2, so it's 1 2/3. Next one. Okay, we're going to look at multiplying a mixed number by a fraction. So what we need to do, we need to change this to improper fraction. So 1.5 is 3 over 2. So you've got 3 over 2 times 2 over 3. Okay, the 3 and the 3 cancel out. The 2 and the 2 also cancel out. So the answer is 1 over 1. On this one, again, 2 3's are 6 and 1 is 7. So that's 7 over 2 times 2 over 10. Right? So the 2 and the 2 cancel out, because 2 divided by 2 is 1. 7 times 1 is 7. 1 times 10 is 10. Pause the video and do these two questions. Here's your answers. You should have got 1 and 1/3. Here are the answers to those questions. So using your different coloured pen, mark your work. Now for the next 10 minutes, I want you to do question 2 and question 3. And question 3, you need to fill in some blanks and work out how to get the answer that was there. Here are the answers to question 2 and question 3. So using a different coloured pen, can you mark your work? Pause the video. It should only take you about 2 minutes. The reciprocal of a fraction is its inverse. So if I multiply by 3, then divide by 4, I get the fraction 3/4. So 16. So 3/4 of 16 is 12 times 3 divided by 4, or divide by 4 times 3. The reciprocal of this is like the inverse of it. So instead of multiplying by 3 and dividing by 4, I get multiply by 4 and divide by 3. So if I have 16 and I divide by 4 to get 4, I multiply 3 by get 12. If I do the inverse of this, I go back to 16. So 12 times 4 is 48. 48 divided by 3 is 16. So 3/4 is a fraction, and the reciprocal of 3/4 is 4 over 3. When you multiply any fraction by its reciprocal, you get 1. 5 over 7 times 7 over 5 equals 1. To prove this, we can use algebra. A over b, where a is a number and b is another number, any number you can think of. Multiply that by b over a, you will always get 1. A cancels out with a and b cancels out with b, and you get 1. So here are some common fractions and their reciprocals. Have a think. What do you think 5 over 4 is? What do you think the reciprocal of 5 over 4 is? It's 4 over 5. What do you think the reciprocal of 15 over 4 is? It's 4 over 15. What do you think the reciprocal of a quarter is? So it's 4 over 1, so it's a whole number. So again, the reciprocal of any whole number is 1 over that number. A half becomes 2, and 2 becomes a half. So you should be learning now the word reciprocal. Some literacy here. You can talk about somebody loving someone else and their love was not reciprocated. It means that love was not returned. Or I did a good deed for you and you reciprocated that by doing a good deed for me. Okay, example. Find the reciprocal of 7 over 10. Well, we just flip the fraction and do the inverse, 10 over 7. Find the reciprocal of 1 over 9. We flip the fraction and it's going to be a whole number, which is 9. Okay, so you do 7 over 9 and 1 over 10. You should have got 9 over 7 and the whole number 10. Next example, if I do 9, I get 1 over 9. Okay, the next one's slightly different. You've got a bit of filling in the blanks to do. So 7 over 10 times another fraction is 1. What is that other fraction? Well, it's the reciprocal, so it's going to be 10 over 7. Okay, so you do these two. So you should have got 1 over 19 and you should have got 10 over 4. Okay, so a fraction multiplied by 4 over 10 is 1. So the answer is 10 over 4. 1 1/4 equals 5 over 4. What is the reciprocal of 1 1/4? Well, to find the reciprocal of 1 1/4, we need to turn it into an improper fraction. And it's 4 over 5. Okay, you can't turn it into reciprocal without putting it into an improper fraction. So what fraction do you have to multiply 4 to get 1? It's a quarter. So you do the next one. Remember, you need to turn that 3 3/4 into an improper fraction. 4 times 3 is 12. Add 3 is 15. So what's the reciprocal of 15 over 4? It's 4 over 15. What fraction do I have to multiply 1 7/10 by to get 1? Well, again, I'm going to have to turn this into an improper fraction. It's too messy to do it without doing it. 10 times 1 is 10. Add 7 is 17. So it's 17 over 10. So the opposite inverse of 17 over 10 is 10 over 17. You have a go at that one. You should have got 10 over 14. Okay, so state the reciprocal for each of these fractions. So pause the video now and then I will show you the answers, and you pause the video. The answers are here. Next, I want you to fill in the blanks, fill in the missing fraction. So here are the answers. Now we're going to look at dividing fractions. Okay, and it involves finding the reciprocal. If I've got 3/11 and I want to find out what I need to multiply 2/5 by to get 3/11, it's quite difficult to do. But what we can do, we can find the reciprocal of the fraction that's being divided by. So we can find the reciprocal of the second one, 2/5, and we can flip it. Okay, so that becomes 3/11 divided by 2/5 becomes 3/11 times 5/2, and we get 15/22. So to help you remember that, we've got a little thing called KFC. Keep the first, flip the second, and change the sign. So keep, flip, change. Keep the first fraction, flip, or find the inverse, and change the sign. So using KFC for this one, keep the first, 3/11, change that to 3/2 and multiply, so that you get 3/11 times 3/2, which is 9/22. So pause the video and you do this one and this one. Okay, here are the answers: 20/27 and 4/27. So I'm going to do 3/10 divided by 2/3. So I'm going to keep the first, so it's going to be 3/10. I'm going to find the reciprocal, so that's flip, so that's 3/2, and I'm going to multiply. So I get 3/10 times 3/2, which is 9/20. Again, this one here, I'm going to keep the first, 3/7. I'm going to flip the second, so the 3 goes to the top, 2 goes to the bottom, and I'm going to multiply. So 3/7 divided by 2/3 equals 3 times 3 is 9, 7 times 2 is 14, 9/14. Okay, pause the video and you do the next two questions. Okay, so you should have got 8/27 and 4/9. Now I want to do 3/8 divided by 1/9. I keep the first, okay, I flip the second, so 1/9 becomes 9/1, and I multiply. So 3 9s are 27, 8 times 1 is 8. Now this is an improper fraction. If you want, you can change it to make how many 8s go into 27. So 8 3s is 24, and 3 left over. So it's 3 and 3/8. I'm going to do this one, 3/10, and what divided by 1/9 becomes 3/10 multiplied by 9/1. Okay, so you get 27/10. Change that to a mixed number. 10 2s are 20, and 7 left over, so it's 2 7/10. So you do the next two. Here are the answers: 5/3 or 1 2/3, and 10/3, and that says, so 3 3s are 10, 3 3s are 9, and 1 left over, so that's 3 1/3. Okay, give yourself 10 minutes to do these questions. Okay, here are the answers. So mark them with a different color pen. If you've got any got wrong, just go back and have a think. See if you can correct them. Now we can also simplify before we divide fractions to make it a bit easier. Okay, so I want to divide 3/10 by 3/7. So I'm going to keep the first fraction as 3/10. I'm going to flip the second to 7/3, and I'm going to multiply. So if you look here, the 3 will cancel with a 3, so that's 1. Okay, so 1 times 7 is 7, and 10 times 1 is 10. So the answer is 7/10. Now I'm going to divide 3/8 by 1/6. So I'm going to keep the first as 3/8. I'm going to flip the second one to 6/1. Okay, now I know that 2 3s are 6 and 2 4s are 8. So that's 3 times 3 is 9 and 4 times 1 is 4. So the answer is 9/4 and 9/4. 4 2s are 8 and 1 left over, so it's 2 1/4. Okay, so you have a go and do these two here. The answers are 3/4 and 2/3. Okay, I've got 3/16 divided by 3/4. I'm going to keep the first fraction, 3/16. I'm going to flip the second one to 4/3. Now I know I can cancel the 3 with the 3. I know that 4 goes into 16 4 times. So I've got 1 times 1 is 1, 4 times 1 is 4. So the answer is 1/4. Now I'm going to do 3/16 divided by 1/8. I'm going to keep the first. Okay, just going to rub that out. I'm going to keep the first. Which is 3/16. I'm going to flip the second. Okay, now 8 goes into 16. 8 1s is 8. 8 2s are 16. So I've got 3 times 1 is 3 and 2 times 1 is 2. That's 3/2 and that equals 1.5. So now you do these two. The answers. So pause the video and then I'll tell you the answers. Okay, hopefully you've paused the video. The answers are 10/21 and 1 1/3. Now do these questions here. So pause the video again and do these. Here are the answers. So mark your work with a different coloured pen. Okay, now we're going to look at mixed numbers. We simplify before dividing fractions. I've got 3 1/3 divided by 1/3. Okay, so to turn that into an improper fraction, 3 3s is 9, add 1, that becomes 10/3 divided by 1/3. Keep the first, flip the second. And already I can see that this 3 cancels with this 3. So 10 times 1 is 10, 1 times 1 is 1, and the answer is 10. So we know from this one here that 3 1/3 is 10/3. So this is 10/3 divided by 1/6. Keep the first, flip the second. 10 times we can we could do 60/3, which is 20, but 3 1s is 3, 3 2s are 6. 10 times 2 is 20. So it's 20/1, which is 20. So have a go at these two. 5/2, 5 2s is 10, so that's 14/5. See if you can spot the ones that you can cross cancel. The answers, that was 8 and that was 4. Okay, so I've got 3 2/3 divided by 1/6. So I want this to turn into an improper fraction. 3 3s is 9 and 2 is 11. So that's 11/3 divided by 1/6. Okay, so we're going to keep the first, we're looking here, keep the first, flip the second. Right, now 3 ones is 3 and 3 twos are 6. So you've got 11 times 2 is 22, 1 times 1 is 1, and you get the whole number 22. On this one, we want to change this to an improper fraction. 3 threes is 9 and 2 is 11, so that becomes 11 over 3. Okay, so we've got 11 over 3 divided by 5 over 6. Keep the first, flip the second. 3 ones is 3, 3 twos are 6. So 11 times 2 is 22, 1 times 5 is 5. 5 doesn't go into 22, but 5 fours are 20 and there's 2 left over. So you do the next two. Okay, if you haven't paused the video, pause the video now. Okay, the answers is 4 and 56. So this one here has got a mixed number in both of them. So it's going to end up being 9 over 5, okay, divided by 11 over 10. Okay, so we keep the first and flip the second and change the sign, KFC. 5 goes into 10 twice, 5 ones is 5, 5 twos are 10. So 9 times 2 is 18, 1 times 11 is 11. 11 doesn't go into 18, so the mixed number is 11 ones are 11, remainder 7. So this is 4/5 divided by, that'll be 11 over 10. Okay, so keep the first, that's 4/5. Flip the second, 10 over 11, and change the sign. 5 I know goes into 10, 5 ones is 5, and 5 twos is 10. Now don't make the mistake of saying, oh, 2 goes into 4, because 4 is on the top row, numerator, and 2 is on the top row, so they have to be multiplied. 4 times 2 is 8, 1 times 11 is 11, so it's 8 over 11. Right, pause the video now and do these two questions. Okay, hopefully you've paused the video. The answers are 2 and 3/4. We've got 1 and 2/3 divided by 2 1/2. So that's going to be 5 over 3. Okay, divided by 5 over 2. Now we're going to keep the first, flip the second, and change the sign. Keep, flip, change. Right, now look, the 5 cancels with the 5. So you've got 1 times 2 is 2, and 3 times 1 is 3, so the answer is 2/3. You have a go at this one. Okay, make sure you pause the video. The answer is 8 over 3. So 10 minutes again, pause the video and do these questions. Here's your answers. On this video, we've got dividing an integer. An integer is a whole number with a fraction. So we've got 7 over 11 divided by 2. The whole number 2, remember, has got an unseen denominator of 1. So we now have, if we apply, keep, flip and change, we've got 7 over 11 multiplied by a half. 7 times 1 is 7, 11 times 2 is 22. There's nothing there that I can cancel, because 2 doesn't go into 7, 11 doesn't go into 7. Okay, so the answer is 7 over 22. On this one, again, we've got the unseen denominator of 1. So we'll do keep, flip, change. 2 over 1 times 11 over 7. Right, 2 11s is 22, 1 times 7 is 7. Right, how many times does 7 go into 22? So it's 3, remainder 1, so 3 and 1 over 7. Okay, you pause the video and then I'll show you the answers. So you should have got 7 over 33 and the whole number 11, because it's 3 over 1, so 7 over 11 times 1 over 3 is 7 over 33. This one, the 7 will cancel with the 7, so 11 divided by 1 is 11. Okay, you've got some questions here, so pause the video and do the questions. Here are the answers. Hello, it's Mr. McNeil here. So what we're going to do today is we're going to simplify before we multiply in fractions. So before we start, can you make sure you've got something to write on? Can you make sure you've got a pen, pencil and a different coloured pen to mark your work? Okay, so the learning objective. So I want you to write the learning objective and underline it, just as though you were still in school. And it's to know how to multiply fractions using cross-cancelling. Now you might not know what cross-cancelling means right now, but we're going to learn what that is, and it will make multiplying the fractions slightly easier. Your success criteria: we can multiply two fractions together and we can cancel common factors down before we do the multiplication. There are 6 questions here, so take 10 minutes. Okay, see if you can answer the 6 questions and then pause the video. Okay, by now you should have done the 6 questions. Okay.